So welcome to another installment into Exploring Consciousness with the Earth Nouveau Hub. And today we have one of our mastermind members, Dale Tobin from Symmetry Health Symmetry, gonna talk to us about psychic surgery. And what I would like to suggest, with your permission, I wanna just skip the why he's got into it. All right, you know, all this life story business, and we're going to go straight into the how he's doing it. All right, and the when and the where, because he's also hold on a second, I'm just letting people in here. Dale is also training people to do psychic surgery, you know, so this is quite a very cool thing. And also it's a very entrepreneurial thing, because I understand that, Dale, that you're doing it, that you've created your own.
Yes, well, so it would have to go to a bit of a backstory about what the kind of setup for everything was. Back in 2012, I was doing Reiki sessions, I was teaching Reiki, and I felt like there was something else going on with me. And back then I discovered Andrew Bartzis on the Galactic History, and I started listening to those. And I said to myself, right, I need to get a session with Andrew. And it ended up happening. I had my first session back then. And so basically what he said was basically, you're doing Reiki, but you're doing so much more than Reiki. It's the beginning of psychic surgery. So for the backstory about what I'm doing as well is, so the galaxy from where I'm from, so when I'm doing the treatments, I've got hands from my back as well, which come out. So in a session when I was doing the Reiki, I could see like, it kind of looks like octopus tentacles coming out my back when I was doing the Reiki sessions. And they were kind of like spiraling, drilling, taking stuff out, putting stuff in. And I felt like I was going a bit crazy. I was like, what the fuck am I seeing here? So Andrew helped me kind of process and understand. So that's embedded into my light body, is that I have extra hands which come out, and these hands come out my back, and they have set. So say if I had a client, I'd have my both hands doing work, going into the organs, going into the anatomy of the body, being able to perceive and going and move dense energy out to light, and so on and so forth, and remove all different stuff. And these hands were basically, one of them could do soul shard retrieval, one of them could potentially do future soul shard retrieval, and there'd be another one as well protecting the being if there's anything, obviously projecting at it while I was doing the healing. So that in a nutshell was how I learned about how it was again. And to me, it felt natural. It really did. And like Andrew said, you're going to get to a point where it's going to be so natural to you, and you're going to start going through many different processes of understanding about soul shard recovery and how important that is, but as well as soul shard recovery, future soul shard recovery. So being able to go into someone's future and go into the crown chakras and the potentials they have. And so basically, a lot of us, myself included, I have soul shards which are in the future trying to plan, say not so negative things to me, make me move too fast, make me make the wrong decision. So with future soul shard recovery, you can go forward in time. Say I'm doing you, Martina, I'd be say going 10 days ahead of time, and I'd start recalling soul shards there. And you may have a soul shard which is trying to move too fast, or you may have a soul shard which is a warrior soul shard. So I have the ability to go into the future as well and start recovering those soul shards. So I started with Angelic Reiki, was the first one I did. So, and then through mentorship with Andrew for the 10 years, he's basically been helping me understand it more and more, and to the point where I'm able to work, say, with the anatomy of the body. I'd start the client where I'd start bringing loads of light generation in. I'd go into the brain and I'd start scooping out and separating the darkness from the light. So if there's anything in the brain there, I'd start separating, taking it out. Then I'd start to flush the brain with my own light generation, various different images as well. Say if the client suffers with confidence, I'd be able to imprint confidence as well while I'm doing it into the parasympathetic or the nervous system, the vascular system. An example as well would be someone who had a stroke. You'd work with the vascular system specifically on rebringing richness into that vascular system. So each client has come to see me, there'd be a point where, say if they had a problem with their liver, what I'd do is I'd put a crystal on the liver, and one of my hands would anchor onto that liver and just stay there the whole entire session and do the drilling, taking out, putting back in whatever's in there. So it feels like it's just a natural state for me. And the more I trust myself, and that's been the bigger journey for me, is having the layer of trust to know that I'm doing it and trusting that I'm doing it is right and what I'm doing and what I'm saying is right. Yeah, so that's been going on off on one about just a bit of the hands, but I feel like that's the main area which has kind of helped me in working with non-competition as well, doing readings as well from my back, which is a cool thing as well.
No, thanks for sharing that. That was, as you said, that was actually really, really important, because most people go the other way around. They learn a modality first and then start to adapt it and everything. And yes, you did the Reiki, but that really sounds like, as you said, it takes a lot of trusting, you know, in yourself. And now, I would assume that you had to do some read up or learning about all these different, you know, systems in the body. How did you do that? Did you just do this on the internet, or did you do actually courses or anything?
Yeah, so I did my cranial sacral course, and with that I had to learn physiology and anatomy. And basically, so I've got loads of different pictures I just look at and say the anatomy of the body, then the vascular system, different types of system, the nervous system, the organs, and so on. It's basically me being able to learn as much as I can of that, because that's so important in psychic surgery. It's not just being able to do entity removal. A lot of people think psychic surgery is all about entity removal, but it's not. It's about restoring the client's brain, restoring the client's spirit back to a natural balance, and helping them wind down and really feel good. So it's kind of like learning that the anatomy and physiology was important, and kind of incorporating that with the many different aspects to it as well. So yeah, it would be the case of me, Martina, would be learning literally all of it. And when I'm doing it, I'd look back at what I'm doing and continue, and it'd just be natural in that way.
Yeah. But craniosacral, this is up to like 3 years, right? That you have to actually, you know, qualify for that. So there has to be, for anybody out there, it's not just, you know, starting to do this. You've got to actually really start, you know, understanding the body. But having said that, Dale, would you say that once you use the organs or the muscular system, whatever system you're working with, as a focal point and focus point for your perception and for your focus and concentration, do you have a sense of actually really working in the astral and the etheric body, on the etheric and astral body, rather than on the liver itself?
Yeah, so when I'll be working on the physical, my other hands will be working in the spirit realm as well. An example would be, I had a client the other day where I was bringing in my psychic surgeons and her psychic surgeons, where they actually took her into like a void space and started doing some really, really advanced psychic surgery stuff. So throughout the sessions as well, my psychic surgeons can work, my team come around me and start doing other stuff in the spirit world, as well as the client, the etheric and all different bodies are being worked on as well. So it's not just the physical anatomy stuff, that's what I'm doing, but there's much more going on. Then that version where I talked about going forward in time. So say I'd have a client, I'd put a version of them, maybe like 10 of them down the right side of me. So there'd be 2 days, 4 days, 6 days, 8 days, 10 days, and 14 days. And I'd have them just right next to me, all the versions of the future potentials. So I'd be working on the future as well as I'd be looking, and with my hands, I'd be able to read the dream energy. So if there's anything out of balance with the clients, say where they're living or anything like that, sometimes I can perceive and pick up that. So the hands are mainly my reading, the way I read. I used to be able to try and read through the heart and the brain, and I could do it. So it was all right. But for me, it was naturally to start speaking to my hands. So I asked them a question about the client or an area, like a guy who I had a session with. I did a swap here the other day. I asked my hands, are there any parts you want me to work on? And it said there's a monstrous energy in his right foot. And I could see it straight away. There was this like parasite in the right foot. So I had to go and take that out. So I'm able to perceive. And I think the best way for me for reading auras is breath, being able to breathe really nicely in the session, making sure my blood pressure's low, I'm nice and comfortable, I trust myself, and being able to shut my eyes and take 10 slow breaths in and out. And when you've taken that 10 breaths, shut the eyes and you can look at the auric field much easier. Then you can see all these different dreaming bodies or areas. There'd be a state as well where say if the client's dreaming body. So what I'd do is I'd have the client and I'd see them. So I'd put a stimulated dream space into the right side of me or the left side of me, wherever, and I'd see the client's dreaming energy, and I'd see where the client wakes up and if there's any parts of the body which wake the client up as well. So there is various aspects to it.
Fabulous. And you do this obviously localized, people coming to your place, you got them on a couch, but you can also do it via Zoom or Skype or something.
Yes, Martina. So I do it most of my online. I've got quite a few clients face to face. I love face to face, but online sessions as well. I do them over Zoom, 60 minutes or 90-minute sessions. And it's basically, there's so much embedded into that session as well. It's not only the psychic surgery, we'll be speaking to your heart and being able to kind of understand what programs are really holding the individual back. So there's various different, each session's so different. So yeah.
I suppose you got to tailor it to the level of awareness of the person you're actually working with.
Yes, I do. And it's how to speak in a way where I'm not overwhelming the client as well. So there'd be some reading or something I'd pick up and I'd make sure for their awareness, like you say, I'd have to perceive that and respect that. Because there's some weird things which come up, which I don't really think the client would understand or really want to know. So like, I have to really tailor it for each person.
Fantastic. Guys, ask your questions. I don't want to take the whole, any questions, shout out. We're grilling Dale Tobin today.
I had a quick question, Dale. I was curious because I know you got your multidimensional, octopus hands. I was curious, like, do they ever act on their own without you even knowing it, and then you realize it later, like, oh snap? Like, do you ever have that going on?
So there's been times in my life where I wasn't aware of them, but there was chaos, and Andrew picked up on this, where say there'd be a group of people and it would go into chaos, and I'd be able to get a few of my hands out and give them a bit of calmness energy. So I'd be able to go across, give and send a bit of calmness energy into it. There is areas like that, but I kind of got a better relationship with them now than I used to. I could speak to them and understand when they're coming out, when they're. What's really interesting is when I'm trying to now, because I used to be able to do it, and they used to. So say if I have a session with you, Alfredo, at the start, I'll be able to tell how much you trust me because it's the amount of hands you allowed me to come on to you. So at the start, if someone's new to Reiki, new to psychic surgery, I'd have my physical hands going around, and I'd probably have 2 hands that come out. But when they come again, I'm able to get 3. Then the next time I'm able to get 4. Then when they fully trust me, I'm able to get 8 fully hands and my hands as well working on them. So it's all about trust. If they're not trust me or they're a bit unsure, I can't get in as deep. So to go back to your question, sometimes it does happen. They do go out, but I make sure energy field now and make sure I'm not stepping on anyone's journey. But I'm sure in the past it has happened, like my kids. And going back to my reading with Andrew, so what I used to do a lot, going up to trees, to plants, I'm able to put some of my hands into the trees and plants. And with my hands comes it's like fibers what come out of them, and it communes with the plants and the animals and talks to them. So I've had it where I've been laid next to a tree and I start feeling this real strong energy, and it's my hands are going in and communing with the tree and communicating to it. And I realized I was doing that. Then Andrew said, you've been doing it in past lives as well, like a shamanic expression with nature. So yeah, that's probably the best way of describing that, bro.
Beautiful. That's gorgeous. Thank you, Dale.
Thanks, bro. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. I'm definitely considering contacting you. But yeah, thank you.
Thanks, man. Great question. I really like that.
Jennifer.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to start doing some of your training online, is that right? Is that going to be an option?
Yeah, so currently I do my trainings online, and currently I am in the process with Andrew at doing psychic surgery level 1. So I do them, the advanced training course online. It's usually about 8 hours, 2 different 4-hour sessions, and you'd have to go and do a case study and do some home like practices and stuff. So it is out there, my advanced practitioner course, which I've had some great feedback, and people, it's really opened the door for a lot of people coming in and experiencing and understanding everyone who is into this is a psychic surgeon. They've been a very powerful psychic surgeon in their lifetimes, and the people who come on the courses as well have got some really badass psychic surgeons in the lineage and stuff, like all of you do. And it's about working with them and asking them to come in with the soul shard retrieval, learning how to do that. So yeah, I do them online, and I'll be doing Psychic Surgery 1, 2, and 3 with Andrew over Christmas time. That'll be available for like basic, upper basic and advanced and stuff. So yeah, it's all out there. If you go on my page, there's an event on there, Symmetry of Health, and it gives you all the details in there. And I do that online as well. I've had a guy from Thailand today, did the last 4 hours today with him, and he was doing backwards in time treatments and forward in time treatments as well. So yeah, super cool.
I do a form of psychic surgery that's like Martina said, I picked up a modality and then I've adapted it over time, and it's not been that much time, but just listening to you talk, I'm not really allowing myself to do everything that I'm guided to do, because I didn't want to step too far over the line. But I think I could do a lot more. I
Yeah.
just give myself permission to do it.
Yes, beautiful. And yeah, that's it. And it's about everyone here has the capacity to do it, and everyone here has the capacity to start using the multidimensionality and advancing that. Because for me, it was about learning the psychic surgeon has tools whenever the psychic surgeon needs tools. So I couldn't get etheric tools out. I've got like my knife, my axe. I've got a bloody big, huge hammer. So I give one of my hands a hammer to start chiseling away some really nasty shit. And yeah, for everyone to be able to explore that is incredible. And for them, so with the psychic surgeon, I won't go too much about the training of it and the ins and ins, because that's on the training course. But it's basically, there's chakra enhancement where it's like extra installing stuff to the chakra, allowing light generation and having as much light. So, you know, like a surgery room, like a patient in a surgery room, you want to have your psychic surgery sessions like that, where there's so much light all around the patient, you surrounding you, that it's easier to pick up stuff and you can see what they're blocking and not allowing in, and so on. Is there any other questions you have towards that? Because yeah, that'll be, it feels like you're ready to kind of go into that. And I feel like it would be great for you to really go into that and explore, allow yourself to let loose, allow yourself to play around with it. That's the whole funness as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I will definitely look into that class.
So Del, would you have any advice to people like Jen and anyone else really, in terms of trusting the weirdness of it? What was your experience, and how did you overcome the certain lack of trust, or, you know, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so I'd say smiling, enjoying, and regularly, I think the inner work for me, what made me become a much better practitioner was the self-work, doing the trauma work, doing the rituals, doing the ceremonies, closing back doors within me where I felt like I was in lack. So to answer that question would probably be to go back, which I have done, and I'm still doing. I've still got some various things I work on at all times and things which come up for me, where that lack of trust and lack of self was from. So I had to do a lot of work with that. It was mainly from a lot to do with my dad. My dad never really talked to me all his life. So I had to do a lot of work about how I could listen to myself, trust myself, and speak my mind, speak how I feel. Before 6 years ago, I was so quiet. I just didn't really want to talk. And so I had to do a lot of inner work on that. I'd say bringing that fun, that smile, learning the anatomy of the body, learning the various organs, learning the meridian system, advancing yourself so you're grounded while you're doing it, and making sure I think being grounded is one of the most important things. 8 years ago, I wasn't grounded. I was very unbalanced and I had a lot of stuff going on in my life. And through the time and years I've been doing this. So the psychic surgery workshop as well doesn't just have the psychic surgery stuff. It has how to live a life to not get overwhelmed by people's stuff, because I used to get overwhelmed a lot. And that's why regularly 1 degree of separation ceremonies, purifying, so on, you all know this, is very important to do. So to answer that question would probably inner work. If you feel like there's not areas where you can't trust yourself, doing that inner work, smiling when you do it, when you're in the session, smile at yourself. trust yourself. And like I said, those little techniques of breathing. And one of the biggest expansions I ever had was when Andrew told me to stop focusing on my sight, start using all the senses, the smell, the taste, the touch, the feel. And once I started using that, that opened up a different layer of trust where I'm like, oh shit, I can do this. I'm not focused on the fucking vision like a lot of people are. Why did I see? Why did I see? Some people aren't meant to see, and that's fine. And you can feel, you can smell it, you can taste it. And that was probably one of the biggest pieces of advice I've learned to trust myself with, using all those senses. Taste how it tastes, like nice chicken.
Where I get tripped up is like the overstepping on free will. Like I don't exactly fear the information that I get. I fear like bringing in anything from the future because I feel like I'm limiting their potential or I'm disrupting their potentials. And so whatever like future things come in, I just kind of put them over to the side and I'll observe them, but I won't communicate them in any way because I just I don't know. I think I just need somebody to tell me I can use it so that I can use it.
Yeah, you can use it. So if they've come and given you consent to do the session, so sometimes with future healings as well, say if you have someone who's possessed by a family's energy or got a lot of stuff going on with them, you can put versions of themselves and start instilling clarity into the parasympathetic, starting instilling clarity into the central nervous system as well. So you can do some great things for them. And if they suffer with anxiety, depression, you can set them up in the future where you're installing them with less anxiety into the parasympathetic, turning off the fight and flight, the medulla from direct adrenal gland access. You can do that. So you can help the client as well. So the next time they see you in a month, you've given them a treatment which is helping them each day, less of the parasympathetic, the medulla from overloading, because that's one of the biggest things I find that what blocks people is a medulla and the parasympathetic in that area, which really fucks a lot of people up. And it's messed me up a lot in the past as well. So I've had to do treatments like that on myself, sending treatments forward in time to my parasympathetic for my central nervous system when I had anxiety and I wasn't able to go into crowds, groups and stuff like that. So I had to go through the school of hard knocks with it. I still have my moments, but I'm able to go out now and I'm able to do workshops and I'm able to not feel overwhelmed with other people's stuff because I'm not taking it on like that empath energy anymore, like I used to be 8 years ago. So yeah, you can do that, and it's trusting yourself enough because you are a psychic surgeon and you've had many lifetimes as a psychic surgeon, and it's just about you now taking it to that next layer, like I do each day, and like everyone else does with their journey as well.
Okay.
Or go ahead, Amy.
Oh no, go ahead, Jen. Finish. I didn't know who was talking. Go ahead, finish.
Well, I was just gonna say, those being able to help them with the anxiety and the confidence and things like that, I do that. But I use because I do hypnosis as well, right? So you use like a hypnotist trick to implant those seeds for them to carry it forward. But it would be much easier to do that energetically than trying to work with their psyche.
Yeah, beautiful. And you could do that as well, where you could counsel the soul shards. So if you do get a version of them a few days ahead of time, you recall the soul shards which are out trying to plan naughty stuff, and you can tell them, look, you need to stay and you need to relax now. It's now time to time to regroup, take time out, not trying onto the next thing. And you can actually start speaking to them and counseling them, like having a soul shard sat down for a counseling meeting, which you can do as well to add to that.
Sorry, Amy, go ahead.
Oh no, go ahead. Okay, so I don't have any background, any modality, nothing like Jen has or anybody else here, Martina. So that would be, so I could go into the psychic surgery class without any background.
Yes, it's available
that-
for all beginners, advanced, medium, in between. It's available for everyone.
Okay. All right, cool. And one question I had, so when you work on somebody and you do what you do, what does the person take away as far as personal responsibility on what you just did with them? What is it that they have to now do their part? Do
Yes.
you advise that or?
Yeah, so with the session, I'd be able to do, so I do like a light language reading as well. So one side of my back, I'll do a paragraph of light language. The other side, I'll do a paragraph. And the light language, and this will probably help a few people out there for readings as well. If you struggle being able to read energy, do a bit of light language to loosen it up and bring the energy, bring the reading in a bit more. It's helped me throughout the years. And so there'd be something I'd pick up where it would be, say, the gut or the feet. I get a lot of people with fucked up feet. So you have to obviously go and do some footwork, body work, gut work, or there'll be something where something negative's happening where someone's really attacking them. That's rare, but that sometimes does happen. And just stuff like that. Unforgiveness is a huge thing I pick up in people, where there's just this black stuff, where they've not forgiven the mum or the dad or stuff like that. So the psychic surgeon, in the psychic surgery session, it gives people with the reading a lot of things to take away and work on. And I do like mentorship groups as well, 12 months mentorship, where I've helped people come out of the starters to the beginners to the mastery point. So there's a lot available, and like I say, when you go away, I'll have a lot of stuff to tell you to work on and what you could potentially do and so on.
Oh, cool. Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Anybody else?
Cynthia, did you wanna? Yeah, Cynthia.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Dale.
Thank
had a
you. Hello.
question. Yeah, thank you. Thanks for being here. I had a question, and maybe you can share some stories, et cetera, about how you contain or secure the space,
Yeah.
the sacred space with, of light, and kind of ensuring as you go in that, there's no shenanigans or et cetera.
Yeah. So what I do is, I think one of the most important things for clients is to put them into, this is not protection yet, but I put them in a personal muscle relaxation, which you'll know from the hypnotherapy training. So it's basically very important to go through the client's body and get them really in a nice low brainwave state, nice relaxed state. Then after I've done that, I'll call in the 7 directions. So to the east, I'll call to clarity, illumination, the birds, and so on. The south, I'll call to the future ancestors, dreamers of the southern skies, the wolf, different various things which can come in for the client as well, if I need to do that. And to the west, the bear, the dreaming world, their dreams, the dragon, the north, the home of the ancestors. So there'll be the above, below, and within as well. So there'll be a 7 directions call in prayer to protect the space, make sure it's sacred. And I'll be able to do various things like working with lightning beings, thunder beings as well. If there is anything there which needs to be moved or kind of pushed away, I'll be able to work and use thunder and lightning to do it as well. That's a very powerful tool.
That's great. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Question with that.
Yeah.
So do you bring in the 7 directions every session you have with someone? Or is it just part of your like greater toolbox of things that you do?
Yeah, so with the sessions, there'll be a start, a middle, and a close. And the start would be all the time the 7 directions. So I'd have to call in the protection, being responsible for that. Then closing it as well after, which is really important. Closing down all the doorways. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, bro.
So there's a shamanic element with it that you're really bringing forward, and I appreciate that, because you're also doing. I've just looked at your website. You're also you're holding fire ceremonies and rituals and everything where you bring people together, which I really love, because it's the whole package, right? I mean, people don't just have to come. They might come for a session, they might like it, and don't want to do the training and want to, get to learn about anatomy and stuff, but they can come to your ceremonies, and that's a great thing to do. Which leads me to the next question. Do you actually do psychic surgery in group settings as well?
Yes. So I can do up to 50 people at a time. It's probably the limit I can do. I'm actually doing a winter solstice event here with a guy called James, who's playing the guitar, ambient music, and I'm going to be doing the psychic surgery session over the solstice period for a few hours with him. So you'd be working with the speakers, so when the speaker and the music's playing, you'd be enhancing the light from the speaker into higher light as it's coming out the speaker, different aspects like that. And you'd be going around doing various things and instilling it into everyone, while my other hands would be connected to people. So you'd see it, basically, I can see them moving around, and they'll go to one person, then go to another person, and they'll be like drilling or taking out, putting shards in different areas like that. Then at some point in time, I'd call to everyone's psychic surgeons within the lineage to come forward, and I'd ask for the soul shards from the ancestral homos to be brought forward, and I'd get them and I'd start putting them into where it needs to go and stuff. So there'll be soul shard recovery as well in that.
Fabulous. Fabulous.
I also saw on your website hypnotherapy.
Yes.
Hypnotherapy.
I
And what is that?
So yeah, hypnotherapy. I've trained in hypnotherapy about 10, 11 years ago. It's not. I sometimes have clients for that. It's not something I really promote anymore. My journey has changed from then. I've gone on to try different things and do different things. But hypnotherapy would be bringing them into a relaxed state and being able to access the subconscious mind. So say when you drive, Amy, you just know how to drive, don't you? It's just installed into you. That's your subconscious. Hypnotherapy is bringing them into a low brainwave state where you can access and give them suggestions and change their perception on it. So say if you've got a driving phobia, you'd be able to visualize them on a drive and help them kind of rejig it around so they're not as scared and worried and stuff.
Okay.
Is
Like
is
that.
it-
Oh.
Go.
No, I
Sorry.
was just going to say, is that kind of like a one and done type of thing? Like,
So with him, it depends what it is. Smoking, it's one session. Usually around about 5 to 6 sessions. It is if you wanted to go into. We've got another hypnotist here as well. If you want to expand to that, Jennifer, what is it like for you, and how many sessions usually does it take for you to do that?
So I do Dolores Cannon's method. I do QHHT. So it's past life regression. And then when you have somebody in that good theta state, you can access the subconscious, like Dale was saying. We use it as an opportunity to ask questions, but that is an opportunity too to insert suggestions that the client wants, like to quit smoking or lose weight. Theoretically, like a QHHT session is supposed to be like a one and done experience. It's not something that requires maintenance like Reiki or other energy work, but oftentimes answers bring in more questions, and so people will come back in like 6 months or so to go to the next stage of their understanding.
Brilliant.
My experience with hypnotherapy, I've done all the certifications and everything, and what I'm doing now is I just use all the hypnotic language in the way I speak or the way I write or that kind of thing. What put me off was this big thing about the expectation of the client. You know, the expectation of the client coming in and say, okay, smoking, I come here and after one session I'm done. And from my personality as a empowerment facilitator rather than the healer, it's very interesting. It very depends on the person who does the healing. You know, I'm not necessarily offering, as you say, that I don't offer those sessions out anymore because of the expectations of people. And I think that is what we were saying early on, really, really important. We can't have an expectation when we do that kind of work, because the healing at the end of the day is done by the client and we are the facilitator of it. If they now accept it as a healing or not, then that's beyond our control.
But I always tell people when I'm doing QA, like when you do Marconics or Reiki, you are in control of the session. You're able to help determine the outcome. During hypnosis, you're just a facilitator. It's really up to them what level of experience they want to have. And I always tell them, whatever your expectations are when you come in, you're going to experience something completely different. So just forget about that. I got hypnotized once to quit smoking long before I ever thought about being a hypnotist, and it didn't work. I had to go cold turkey, and it was really unpleasant. So I'll never smoke again because I don't want to quit again. That's my motivation.
And that's it. And going back to the various hands, and they have full trust, and if they trust me enough, I'm able to get more in them, and it's totally up to them. Treating my mum, for instance, that's she has a strong way, like especially parents, to diffuse you out of their field. So a lot of mothers, when you're doing work on them, sometimes it doesn't work because they've just got that natural, you're not fucking coming in, like I'm your mum. Like, so everyone does have that choice. So some people that, like, yeah, they'll just basically, like, you'll get 50% of it, which will actually do the work, and the rest of it, like, no, you're not fucking coming in. So that does happen, and that's why I think the PMR is important, the personal muscle relaxation, getting them into a really relaxed state, maybe some revocations for some needs for people who are really kind of stuck and stiff. So it's all about that trust, I feel, yeah. And knowing that they're doing all the work, like that a client I had where their psychic surgeons took her into another universe, and they were doing really high level psychic surgery stuff on her, and she told me all about it, and I was like, wow, you did all that. I was just here, and she was there, and she was, yeah, that experience happened, and that gave me inspiration and the validation for, wow, this is why we do it, and yeah, how beautiful this journey is, and like, yeah, incredible.
Mm. I have a question about the hands that you use that come out in the back.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. Do you only have a certain number, or do they keep, growing, and do they do certain things? Each hand, now does certain things for certain people on certain parts of the body.
Yeah. So before it was kind of like there was usually up to 8 which came out, but speaking to Andrew lately, and he kind of give me little bits of nugget when I'm ready to hear it and kind of process and stuff. And he said I can up to sometimes have 1,000 hands what come out if I really want to do that. So it's 8 which have been installed. So the where I'm from, their DNA was traded with another galaxy DNA, and one of their DNAs had this technology which was the hands in the back and stuff like that. So it was encoded into my light body when I was created. And as I grew, there was some special skills I could do with it as well, which I'll say I've not really said any to anyone this. I was able to give people life reviews when they never had life reviews before. So my hands were able to get a life review and store it for someone who didn't have a life review and go up to them and give them it. And that was some fucking, Andrew told me that, and that just blew my mind. I've not spoken about this for 9 years, first time I've talked about it. And just strange things like that. And yeah, and I can have one hand on the whole entire session on someone to give me trust, and I'll let them feel what I'm doing as well. So I'll have a hand just connecting to them, just to letting them know exactly what I'm doing with them and giving them trust. And it's like a high level psychic surgeon trust. And Andrew's saying it's very cool how I'm able to do it. And so the one hand just stuck there, just showing them what I'm doing so they can have validation and realize what I'm doing as well. So those hands it's kind of like the movie Avatar in a way. They come out the back and they're able to have these. So as they go into something, they're able to grow fibers. That's the word he uses and describes them. They're like fibers as they go into something. And I'm able to read roots as well. So say if there's a ground and there's grass, I'm able to put my hand in and read the roots of the grass with my fibers and hands. And they're not exactly octopus tentacles, but they look like it. It's hard to describe it. I was speaking to Andrew the other day, and I called myself DJ Many Hands when I was playing some music. Just having fun with it.
And
Well,
you go, Amy.
I just want to finish with the, with people that do this, like you and Jen and Martina, and, even Sean, I don't know who else does what, but I often wonder about the physical body, when you come back. So I'm thinking of your hands, and I'm thinking that it feels like they're like a helping hand. That's kind of funny, but like with your physical body, because doesn't your body physically go through a lot? How do you what's the word? Like have a spa day? How do you?
Yeah, so and that goes back to how important the inner work journey and the teachings of what I've learned from Andrew for the various years of how to have a day, make sure you're not doing it 7 days a week, because that's just obsession. I have one day off a week where I switch off all spiritual skills, I turn off Facebook, I turn off who I am as a spiritual person, and I'm 3D Dale. I go out, I have fun, I have a coffee, I enjoy watching TV. So that has to be part of my life where I'm able to switch the skill off, have a day of doing nothing, just relaxing, maybe have a beer, just human stuff. And that's very important, because 10 years ago, I did fire ceremony after fire ceremony every day, and I was obsessed. All I did was just one next day, fire ceremony, next day. And it got to the point where I was fucking sick of it. I was like, I'm sick of ancestral offerings, right? I've got to figure out a way where I'm not sick of it, where I'm enjoying it. And that, when I had that one day off, I first took that day off, switched off. That was it for me. And when I had a strategy behind my inner work, variety, variation, fun, drumming, dancing, trauma work, but not taking it too seriously, that got me into a different state where I'm able to do more work. So before 8 years ago, that guy, I look back at him and listen to him, I'm like, wow, I've grown a lot. And that's like everyone here, we're doing the great work. And if you think of, say, if you do an hour a day on yourself, 6 days a week, 4 years ahead now, that's fucking a lot of hours of self-work, self-healing, self-nurturing. So throughout the years, it's given me, it's made my body adjust to it. I go in the flotation tank once a week as well. That's like one of the most beneficial things for me. So I have to recover a lot. I have to switch off from the kids. I've got 5 kids. So there's a lot going on with this as well.
Wow, that's awesome that you figured that out, to do that for yourself. Yeah.
And
I often wondered that.
And it came to that point, which Andrew talks about, repetition with illumination, where I did it 2 years and actually doing it, where I was actually doing work, and I was enjoying it. I was smiling. I was taking a day off, and a day came where I smiled and I went, wow, this is what it is. That feeling of repetition and illumination, where before it wasn't there, but me taking it that day off. And for anybody listening who feels overwhelmed by the journey at times, I highly advise, from my own experience, to take 1 day off a week, switch off, send prayers forward in time for that day off for protection if you want to. But that day, see if you can switch off, because it took me a while to learn to switch off. I was obsessed. I was like, got to think about calling in protection or speaking to something. And I was like, had to tell myself, stop it, like slap myself until I got used to it. And I'm like, I can switch off now. And it's easy.
Wow, I love that.
Can anybody not switch? Is everyone good at switching off here? Because sometimes I can't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Practice,
Yes,
Yeah.
Martina.
Yeah.
Yes.
isn't it?
It always seems like it's back there, it's still like, oh, I think I'm switched off, but it's still going. So that's something I need to do. Yeah.
So like with switching on and off with your hands, how much do you consciously use your hands in a given day? And like how much of it's like subconscious, but how much are you actively thinking on it?
That's a really good question. I'd say majority of the time I'm not thinking about it, except for when I'm doing the clients or sacred work. And I'm always telling them to stay in. They should be relaxing, and my energy body as well to relax now, recover. It's like having children. I have to do school runs. I have to make enough money to feed my family. And that type of life embodied in spirituality is hard. I'm not going to lie. But the effort and I think speaking to your body to answer that question was the best way of dealing with it. Telling my hands, look, it's time to rest now, time to just relax. But I guess they do go out sometimes, but I have to bring them back in. Like to the kids, if something happens, there's always one which kind of goes out to them and stuff like that. So yeah, they do go wandering. So I do have to tell them to come back at times. Yeah. It's so weird talking about this. I've not talked about the hands like this before. So yeah.
Yeah, these rooms often open up cans of things.
Yeah,
Cans of hands.
Call it Spaghetti Junction.
When you talked about the fibers, it made me think of like the gecko feet.
Yes.
The tiny, tons of infinite amount of little fibers on them.
Yes, the gecko feet. And that's it. Yeah, the fiber stuff was what Andrew said on my first session. I've not really explored it a lot more, but the main thing of what I explored in the last year would be speaking through my hands, the light language, reading through my hands, and trusting my hands. I ask them questions and they speak to me like different. They're obviously part of me, but I've got enough trust now to ask them if there's anything. Before I was worried about them. I was like, I didn't really trust them, didn't really know what they were doing. They were doing everything on their own accord, and I was just kind of trying to see them. But now I've got to realize they are me, and I've got to work with them and trust myself, not be scared about it. So yeah, really cool, man.
Okay, here's one. So moving beyond sight, what would you say for you the next prominent sense that kind of came in the most? Like trying to use them all, but which one kind of fell in next?
I'd say feeling. I'd say a feeling. I'd do a reading for a feeling, and that feeling would come out the back of my back. Then from doing the feeling readings, I was able to see more. Then, like I say, that breath work. If you're doing a session, stop yourself halfway through, smile, take 10 really slow, nice breaths, and it changes the whole session. You really go into such a nice state, and you're able to read a lot more. A lot of people are too high blood pressured in sessions as well. That's why it's really important to breathe shitloads in them, because a lot of people are so focused on the bloody giving the healing, and they're there quite tense. But it's about being relaxed, breathing loose, trusting yourself, playing with the energies. And like, you can bring in thunderstorms in, light stuff you can bring in. You can bring waves in and start closing down negative dream worlds for the clients. So say if they're haunted as fuck, you can go into the room and just start flooding it with stuff, just their dreaming space. You wouldn't step on anyone else's journey, obviously, but with their dreaming space and stuff like that.
Yeah, the dreaming tide pool, or the those wave pools. Do you ever play in one of them at a water park?
Yes.
The wave pool. Those are
That's
fun.
a good one. I'll use out. Start putting them in a wave pool now.
So I'm just wondering, in terms of practice, because you see, the thing is, there's almost nothing you can do wrong, because there is no set way of doing that kind of work. And as builders of new thought forms and new modalities and creations, we are, I consider you a forerunner, so that there is, there's nothing to hold on to other than your trust and your own knowingness. And then at some stage, you're saying on your website, you said, what's it going to tie? The skill that is required to live and breathe as a grounded psychic surgeon. I think at some stage we've all experienced that we become the energy of it, and it's almost like you be it. You are that energy, and it's almost you just have to walk into a room and you don't even have to use any of your hands anymore, because you start to emanate it. And when you come from a sovereign perspective, it will be the people you have permission with, said or unsaid, that will receive that energy, and the others will not even see you anyway. Wouldn't you say that, Del?
That's beautiful. That really, really beautifully put. Yeah, I'd definitely say that. And I remember that reminded me of what Andrew said to me in 2013, because when I did my first session, I didn't trust myself. I didn't love myself enough. I didn't trust. So the main thing I had was with the trust issue was finance. I didn't see how the fuck me being a Reiki practitioner could have a career. I didn't see it. So I had one foot in the restaurant industry. When you're emanating who you are, when you've realized that you are a healer, your contracts are to be a psychic surgeon, then things will change in your life. And it's, being brutally honest, it's only felt like that the last 3 to 4 years. It's been coming into that point where I'm making money from it. It's a graft. I fucking hustle my ass off to do it, like everyone does, the daily hustle. So like you say, Martina, being able to be grounded, doing the work, and living and breathing who I am. And this is who I'm meant to be, like you, Martina, Amy, Sean, Jennifer, Alfredo, how do you spell your name? Cynthia, that's it. Sorry, I've got really bad eyes. And we have the bottom, how do you say that? Herminia, is that right? Herminia, yeah. So all of you have your various different contracts of what you're here to do and what you're here to. And yeah, that's just mine. Like everyone else has different ones. There's nothing greater or different. It's just everyone has these roles. And I feel like now I've found my role, and I trust myself enough, and things are happening. I'm meeting some incredible people like Martina, like you lot, Andrew, Laura, and everyone. And things are opening up in that way, because I feel like I love myself enough for that to happen. before I wasn't. I was scared shitless of myself and my power, and I had to set up a podcast so I could speak. Like go back and look at the first Talking Six show, and I'm like, wow, I couldn't even talk. I was there like reading a script, like trying to get out of my little shell. And like you say, Martina, throughout those years, living and breathing it and emanating it, realizing that we are source stream connected and we're shapeless and formless. Yeah.
It's that receiving of yourself, and that obviously gets reflected in the flow of the money. It gets reflected in the results of your clients. You know, it's all about that self-receiving, which leads us back to the sovereignty, the self-healing journey. Now, you've just said something formless. How many of your clients are formless or do not have a body, a corporal body form?
So with the formless stuff, so it's interesting because I've learned how to melt down a client, put them into liquid, put them into a fire and start removing ancestral karma, or putting them into a crystal, shining loads of light through it. So what I found out is that each client is shapeless and formless, and you can do a lot of things with that client. So say if a client has ancestral hauntings, which I stepson did, so I've dealt with this firsthand. I was in quite a position. I was quite upset, and I rang Andrew and I was asking something was going on, and he looked into it and he helped me by doing the shapeless and formless stuff, by melting it down, seeing the pot and loads of different aspects to that and variation. So I was seeing things to be shapeless and formless, and I'm able now to see my client as shapeless. So I'm able to change them into something if I need to remove it. If it's really negative, I'll put them into some dough and I'll roll it out of them. They're like, put them up board, start rolling the dough. And if they've got like this ancestral karma, start beating it out of them and say, I'm now taking off the ancestral karma of the father, the mother, and stuff like that. And then you'd break it off, give it to their angels and saying this ancestral karma contracts are now void and they no longer accept this debt between them. And various variations to that. So I'd say for that, would everyone I picked up has the capacity to be shapeless and formless in that way of changing and yeah.
So I love that entire hour and I know we need to let you go just now, but I want to say one more thing here. The next level of where we start to work with our intuition, we need to get really good with our imagination and visualization because
Yes.
you know, and we can practice that kind of thing by practicing visualizations, you know, because that kind of thing, in order to come up with all of that, you need to be sometimes on the go when you do that kind of work. So that metaphorical work is hugely important when we start working multidimensionally. And you see it with Andrew. So often he says, oh, I can't use words, so I just give you a metaphor, you know. So I think Dale, you would say that you've just saying this, you know, it's good to allow yourself to be playful with that.
Yes, very, very playful. And even that's it, having the fun and the playful energy about it. And that's when you know the skill's working really well, when you're smiling of it and you're laughing, you're putting something to the left side of you, you're putting something to the right side of you. One as well for everyone is being able to trust yourself to split yourself into versions as well. So when you're doing a client, put yourself into 20 different versions around the client. So you've not just got yourself working on them, you've got 20 versions of yourself, plus your psychic surgeons within your lineage who you can call to. So it's about trusting yourself, and the spirit world is basically waiting for anything because it's multidimensionality and fun and shapeless, formless. And like Bruce Lee said, like water, and it's just seeing that playful energy like he did when he was doing his great work, and trusting yourself, realizing we're all masters, self-masters. And yeah, and I feel like this is, for me, one of the best, I don't always see, but I always have a life review. And I'm thinking, if I died now, what would I want to change in my life? I always do this. So if I passed away, what would I want to do in my life? What would I want to change? And one of them was to be quite advanced at what I was doing and to help people realize how advanced they are as well. And mainly working on myself, because that's what I'm here to do, is just do my self-work while helping others figure out themselves as well. I'm not here to heal everyone. And it's about knowing that as well. I'm not here to heal absolutely everything and everyone. I have my contracts, but I don't want to be obsessed with it. And yeah, just remembering that being a human is so fucking important. And having that mastery, having that power, that fun, like you say, Martina, that shapeless side of you, and having fun and creating with it. What can you create with it? And through my sessions, like, so I went with Andrew, Laura, and Matty the other week. I went into a Warriors of Twilight chamber, and it was like a mushroom chamber, apparently, what Andrew said. Sorry, I've got burps. But so I went into like a mushroom chamber, and they basically showed me advanced psychic surgery setup. And it was I saw a client in a cocoon. So this client was wrapped in this cocoon. And what this cocoon was, I asked Andrew what it was. I said, I can see the client cocoon, and there was about 1,000 healers all around this one person. And what it was they use the cocoon energy to bring them back to the fetus in this womb state. So no matter what being they are, they'll use that cocoon to put them around, to put them back into the fetus state, to then work on them. Then there was all these like cobwebs coming around them. And what these cobwebs were doing was they were connecting to the natural elements from outside and healing the natural elements into the client. So they were using the web technology, connecting to the land and the elemental energies, and that was streaming into the client as well. So that was really beautiful to see that, and being shown some really advanced stuff from the Warriors of Twilight. A bit of a strange organization. They tried to speak to me afterwards like twice, and I just kept saying no, I was knackered, I didn't want to speak to them. And Andrew said they try and recruit a lot of people when you connect to them. So they're always like, do you want a bit more information? They'll try and recruit you in some way. So just like, nope, fuck off.
No, I got a job.
Yeah. I want to keep on my path. But yeah. And so that was interesting. And that the Warriors of the Twilight show we did, that was the 2 nights before we went into the healing chambers of them. And that just think of that, how fucking cool that is, that web technology of having a client, having thousands of psychic surgeons around the client. Well, there's just webs connected to like the hands, the feet, and it's going out and getting that natural elemental energy to heal them as well to the natural state. So that was an honor to see that. Yeah.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Any last questions from anyone for Dale before he needs to go?
Thank you for being here.
Did you say speak a light language out of your hands earlier?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah. So that would be, so when I'd speak the light language, I'd say it through a paragraph through my left side of my hands, connecting, say, to a heart, and I'd work on the heart through light language. Then I'd do a right version of paragraph of light language from the back, going into, say, the head. So there'll be various aspects where I'm actually getting my hands to do light language as well, which they really, really enjoy. And that was just things opened up. Andrew opened that up to me as well, to start doing light language with the hands as well.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you.
And you can give the hands stuff. I can give the hands a hammer. I can give it a knife. I can give it a disco ball, one of them. That's like Martina said, having the fun with it. What can I do in this moment of the now to help the client, and stuff like that. Like you say, that wave, that whirlpool, you can use that. You can have anything which is available to you, really, what you want to use. That cocoon stuff, which again, hopefully inspire people to use that in their sessions. If you ever want to go to that fetus state, just see yourself in like a cocoon to take you back to that as well.
Fabulous. Del, thank you so much for coming on, and it's been great to get a bit more, details for what you're doing, and I'm sure, if you have some more time, we'll get you back on again. But
I'd love to, yeah.
Before we let you go, do you want to give your website or?
Yeah, so it's symmetryofhealth.com, my website, and I'm part of Two Feathers Medicine now with Laura and Matty, and we're doing a new platform on locals.com, Two Feathers Medicine, where there'll be some new teachings of Andrew's. It kind of worked out where I had a session with him, and it came to the point where he wanted to do something new. I think he did Adventures into Reality for about 11 years. So he decided wanted to have a break and mix it up a little bit. And it came at the time where it just worked. It just kind of that synchronistic time. So there's new teachings which are going to be available and coming out on Locals and various different platforms, Symmetry of Health YouTube page. So if you go on Symmetry of Health and Two Feathers Medicine Facebook, all the stuff, and Andrew Bartis' page, obviously there'll be stuff posted on there. But again, it's an absolute honor, Martina. Very inspired from your work as well. watched many hours of you and Andrew speaking, and all of you as well on the show. I've listened to many hours of this show as well, and you're all inspiring to have this community of healers and teachers and humans coming together to inspire people, and know that we're not alone on this journey, and there's always a space we can come to and talk and chat about our life. So yeah, it's an honor. Thank you.
Oh, thanks very much. Thank you,
Thank
Dale,
you.
Thank you,
Dale.
Dan.
Thank you guys.
Dale.
Bless you all.
Yeah,
Speak to you
lots of
soon.
fun.
for coming
Bye
in.
bye. Thanks,
Bye.
Alan. Bye.
Cheers, eh? What a nice
Ooh,
guy,
that's
hey?
Nice.
Wow,
Mm.
that
What
was
a nice
great.
guy.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
On the inspiring hour.
yeah.
Well, you know, as it says, this is all about we're going into group consciousness.
Mhm.
It's all group consciousness. And this is where we all need to get together and start just sharing, you know. And you know, with what we were saying, with all this trusting business, and do I say the right thing or not, we're all saying new things that nobody else is saying, you know. It's like, you know, sometimes, yes, when the student is ready, the teacher appears, and sometimes when the student is really ready, the teacher disappears, because we need to become our own teachers, and that's the invitation, you know. So we're going to put Jennifer on the spot here right now, because she will have to do her stuff as well. And then Sean, we've heard quite a bit, and then, you know, everyone else, Alfredo and Amy and Cynthia, Herminia, anyone, you know, has got something to say, just say it, you know, or bring people on like you did, like you guys did last week. I haven't watched the show yet, but I'm sure it was cool too. So this is go. Who is talking?
So awesome. That's a guest that Lana brought on. Thank you, Lana. It inspired me to make more crystal technology. So thank you.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So inspiring each other, right? So in terms of, let's continue. We don't have to, Dale is gone, but is there anything that came up for you guys, or do you do psychic surgery already, or haven't actually named it that? How much of psychic surgery are we actually doing without having acknowledged it yet, you know, and put it into a box? And yes, we're always trying to get out of a box, but sometimes we need to actually acknowledge that we are emanating and coming back and saying, hey, I have been doing this all my life. I just didn't give it a name because it came so natural, you know. And that's another big, you know, inspiration from Dale's journey here, you know, and then put it into a box. And as he says, he's creating his own training. We can all do that. You can all do that.
What's coming to mind is just the power of the imagination, and then seeing how like we each have our own individual predisposition based on like our bodies, or like our star lineages, like Dale, where he had his arms. But the thing is, like, our disposition is just kind of what leads us in, and it's like an opening tool. But with like, as we unlock our imagination, we can do whatever we want. Like, and it's just that key, just to crack open our imagination and just use any type of thought possible to heal something or put our intention into it. Like the waves and the thunder or fire or the ethereal self or the physical self or the dough, you know, it's like, but arms or the webs or the wind, you know, it's like the sun, the moon, the light, the fractals, the disco ball. It's like, we could use all those. That's what's coming. It's just amazing. Just to inspire our infinite ability. Just like, well, hot damn.
Absolutely. And you know, it's lots of people, I think they misinterpret imagination. They think it's something that's not real, it's not made up or anything, but there's a mental capacity behind it, because it's really a form building through thoughts. So
Yeah.
as he talks about, how many have seen, as he talked about his hands, how many have seen right away the hands?
In my brain, or, you know,
Oh,
like, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
He said it and they were all over the place,
Yeah.
you know, and yet and somebody maybe, you know, some people might have heard it or felt it, or, you know, just knew, you know, this clear cognizant thing where you just know, which is the worst clear, you know, out there, because you have no validation for it other than your own knowingness and trust for it, you know. So
I also really like the imagery of like the left or right or whatever direction, and just having like the future self 1 day and 2 day and 3 day or 4 day or 5 day, and just seeing that imagery of the person just in their, not necessarily de-evolution, but past and the evolution future, and just being able to focus on them and holding that vision. That was a pretty cool vision
Yeah. Yeah.
image.
It's like Amy, you're working a lot with children, so you're very good with imagination, right?
Mhm, yeah.
Storytelling and stuff like that. And that's something we can practice. We had one show once where we just practiced, just thrown in 3 words and started to create something. And yes, it feels a bit awkward to begin with, but you know, it's something that needs to be practiced, you know, to speak in metaphors and allow our, see, so many people think, oh, this is not very intellectual, this is not very grown up, not very academic. Hello.
So true. And I liked what he said, because that he said something, I wrote it down. That shapeless side of you. I just threw myself in that shapeless side of me that is a good practice for me now to do. Like, go shapeless and then see what happens while you're in that shapeless. I just love that little line that he said, that can even enhance my imagination. Like, I love the enhancements.
It's interesting when he said shapeless, what happened in my imagination, the one shape became the many shapes. It wasn't that there was no shape, but there were millions of shapes, different shapes.
Mm.
That was the shapelessness in my perception.
Mhm.
It's quite interesting how
Yeah.
we all have that, you know, we all have very different. And metaphorical work, I've done metaphors of movement, and when you work with clients and they come with a really solidified problem, I don't know, in a relationship or even a pain or something, and you start talking metaphor to them, they get really angry. Yeah, they're really angry. First of all, what the hell, you know, I'm paying you this, and you talk to me about the hammer going, that kind of thing, because it's so powerful. Yeah, you know, just be aware of that. So I think with the psychic surgery at times, maybe it's better not to even.
Yeah, how dare you break away my structure that I love so very much, that I identify with
Yeah.
your little chisel
Most people that I work
power.
with, I use something, well, I don't usually use like chisels and stuff, but like for one of my clients, her mother that had passed will come, and I'll have her help work on the heart while I work elsewhere. Another client of mine has like she's very galactic, and so like her team always come in, and I put them to work, and they do, like you can see them moving with their little tools. They do work. Most people, when you tell them afterward who came in to help, it really resonates with them. They're like, it's funny you say that, because this has been coming in for me the last couple of weeks. So most of the time, whatever comes in that I use as a tool that shows up was already coming into their awareness.
Amazing.
So it creates belief in them to help them, because it brings it together.
And our subconscious mind, from the very beginning, when I still, you know, studied NLP, it was all about the subconscious mind, how the subconscious mind thinks in pictures.
Mhm.
And there is obviously that element, you know. So like Jennifer, now you don't even have to be an artist to draw something. So I used to talk the metaphor out and draw it, stick figures or whatever, you know. And it was like, even for myself. So I do that sometimes, like when we talk about self-healing, self-mastery and all that, when I have something that is bugging me, I go immediately into the metaphor, you know, and then I start drawing it. And as I draw it, it already starts dissolving, you know, and things like that. It's very interesting. We solidify through images.
Yeah. I just think it's coming to my brain how it's the last sense kind of that solidifies the reality. Like all the other ones come before, and it really is the last sense that comes to us.
Mm.
Well,
the way I see it.
It's probably the one that's most suppressed in us growing up, right? Because it's the one that we're really told not to use. The imagination and the visualization.
It's also, yeah, it's also the one that is the least known, because
Mhm.
we're so emphasized and focused on the physical. But we have to really acknowledge that the physical form is a result of the etheric and the astral. So the changes, when we talk about healing, we are creating change in the astral world, in the etheric body, and that then trickles through. That's why I asked Dale the question, and obviously when you work out multidimensionally, you truly are just using the physical body as a focus point, and the rest is happening in all the different bodies that we have. But I really think, the next level of exploration, certainly from my personal perspective, when we go into group consciousness and all of that, is a much better awareness of what's happening in the astral world. And how can we get control? Control is never a good word, but how can we start fortifying our astral body? And of course, we all know the astral body is the emotional body plus, so it's really that becoming more and more aware, what is the astral body? What does it actually do? What does it, and how do we interact with it beyond the dream time? And of course, the dream experience is one of the best places to start playing with that. And I think at this stage of evolution, anyone who calls himself a consciousness explorer or an awakened person, if they have no control over their dreaming, and again, when I say control, they have no interest in even creating a journal and writing their shit down, then don't call yourself awakened. Because it's really, really, really important.
You can totally see, just looking at all these people's shows and podcasts, like just like how Dale said, like you went back to his first podcast and seeing the progress report of just like the iterations of his past self and how much it's improved, and not just through journaling. Like journaling is important, but like all these things we do too, they're all chronologue now for time memorial, and we can always go back. It's pretty awesome to like have these, and like the social net, or not social net, but like that that group consciousness you're talking about, feels like we're there. Or for me, it was like we're already right there, because there's so much. It's like these Zoom shows are just there's so many of them right now. There's so many, and there's so many of us like growing together. It's pretty great.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the next level. Soul
Like interactive
is really what does it actually mean? It's really, we always talk about, as part of the self-mastery, getting out of the personality of the empath. Once we have actually established and fortified our sovereignty, and we go, hey, Poppy, and we go into group consciousness, we have to get back into it, but without entanglement, because group consciousness really implies telepathy, picking up everyone else's perception, but not entangling with it. And that's one of the big things about group consciousness, because what is group consciousness? It is the next level, personality, lower soul integration. The next level is higher soul integration, where we go back into oneness.
Just last line I wrote from Andrew's book was that I wrote down was higher learning stops observing things and becomes them. And I thought that was like, damn, you gotta go. I was like, damn. Like, just like, that's just so powerful. Like just even just in the past, like I used to watch, all those AB shows we watched, YouTubes we watched, but now we're actually becoming it. Like we're actually being a part of it. We're actually experiencing it instead of just looking at it. And that's what higher learning.
What's the key parameter in order to be able to go into group soul consciousness and start practicing with that oneness?
That's a self practice. Because once you can repeat it in daily life, more opportunities in daily life show up to actually use the practice that we've learned.
Willingness to participate, right?
Say again.
A willingness to participate.
Well,
Like
absolutely. Yeah. And of course, our usual non-judgment. So as soon as you go into judgment, you can't do oneness, you can't do group soul consciousness.
Yeah, that was a big struggle for me, that whole idea of like way back in the personal evolution growth, like the judgment, and then learning that like I can still categorize everything. I can put everything into compartments. As long as I don't judge it, they're really helpful. And then I can just throw them away after, once I've made them, so I can
Mhm.
go into the unknown instead of having all these prejudgments and expectations. But it's super convenient to build that structure and then say, okay, see ya.
Absolutely. And this is what causes our emotional turmoil. That fucks up our astral bodies and our emotional bodies. And that keeps us from changing our physicality at the end of the day. Because, you know, at the end of the day, if you take it back, being spirit and being matter, like we talked about, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, it's like the spirit needs a vehicle. It can't express itself. And everything we're doing continuously is changing our vehicle. We're changing matter. We're changing our corporeal body so that spirit can express its desire to grow and to move. And that's really it. And this is where in a couple thousand years, we're going to ditch that baby because, you know, we won't need it anymore. We can be spiritually aware, you know, differentiated, individual, unique, without a body, at least not with the dense physical body that we have now, because it's really a trap. It's a trap for spirit. But
Yeah, like,
it's a
it's so funny and simple when you just get that like click, because like all that structure and form and bodies of information that are our limitations, it fucks up our spirit, because that's what the spirit comes into. It's like that's the form we create for it to incarnate into, and we're constantly projecting it with our thoughts, etc. And just whatever we're constantly creating, and we need to create it because we want to have a body. But you know,
it's the container to create experiences. Until we have learned to create experiences with the less dense container.
Yeah, then looking at Dale, because then he's kind of like using his body, but he's still using his spirit through his body. Like it's like an extension, you know, just the body's there, but it's still facilitating all that spirit and thoughts and imagination into the physical world, you know, to affect another person or another structure, another part of the hard dream.
Absolutely. Del for me is a typical example of a joyful creator that has come in this time of the awakening with his personality intact, with his lower soul lovely integrated in his personality. And now he's building, has already built obviously the next level into the higher soul. He's one of the forerunners like we all here are. You know, but what I love about him very much is that joyfulness, you know, and what I also like is he does it all. Got 5 kids. That's perfect. That's the balance. Those are all his little grounding cords, you know, it's a little grounding cords for him. Think about it. How much are we using our family as grounding cords?
And Sean, I would think that you're using your spirit also in the work that you're doing. I mean, you intuitively read what pattern somebody might need for an acupuncture treatment, right? So it may look different than how you uses it, but you use yours too.
Yeah,
You read my mind.
Was a big thing to turn, just like what they said with like turning off the 1 day a week. Something with medicine, and everyone here who has studied some sort of like hypno, you know, as whatever everyone studied, to turn it off, because you get so trapped on the pathology aspect of it so much. Like you can see pathologies everywhere with the focus. And yeah, because I was looking at patterns everywhere. Everywhere is a pattern. This is a pattern. That's a pattern. And it took a while to turn off, you know, or at least seeing the positive pattern versus the pathological pattern going on, because everywhere is the patterns.
Yeah, I get to be an engineer during the week and do the practitioner stuff on the weekend. So there's my balance. Very different world.
And what really connected me with Dale a lot was that quiet journey that he had. Like part of his evolution growth was like that forced into a quiet aspect of himself, which really later gave him the gift of all this awareness. Because when you're quiet in that space for so long, you get this hyper awareness, but you know, you got to evolve with it and break the chains of whatever is limiting it. But that was, I really like that, because like I really connected with that a lot too.
Mhm.
There were parts where you just like, you're paying attention to everything and you can't talk to it with anyone because you feel like there's no one you could connect it to. So you just kind of like, you know, zip your lips for a long time.
I think there is this path where we have to do it, we have to go alone. We have to go it alone and get out of validation and instant gratification. That's the alone journey that, you know, is really never alone. We're never alone anyway. But as you say, Sean, as soon as you get rid of the distraction, you start connecting to the whispers. You hear the whispers of the multidimensional beings around you and everything.
And switching it from the victim to the gift. Because like, you know, it's like, again, that straight curveball of God. You don't really know what's going on until like a different perspective comes along. You're like, oh, I got a really valuable skill from all that thing that I saw so negatively for oh so long, and heal those patches.
Yeah.
And with Amy, it was really cool because again, with what Martina said about working with children, it came to my mind too, like the past and future beings, like 1 to 10 days in the past, but you're working with like the children, which is like multiple years in the past, like someone on their deathbed or someone like, you know, toddlers.
Wow, I never
Another
thought of it.
feeling
that
size
way.
of it. Oh my God.
I never.
Excuse me.
Wait, so the talking about the future, when he said, I always think of the future as like that's a year. That's and when he said like 4 days, I'm like, I never talked to my future self in 4 days. Because I always think the future has to be years or months. So that was illuminating to me to just be able to come back and know that it could be for tomorrow. I need to talk, you know, that's the future. So that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it was so visceral.
Yeah, it was he was saying so many little nuggets.
I remember back in the old Symphony of Consciousness days, Martina, you guys went right into that and it was like, and then there was that one Netflix show too, the Academy, something Academy. And, but he said that line's like, instead of trying to go multiple years in the past, try going seconds into the past. And it's like, that really dawned on me, like, instead of going so far back, you know, just moments, minutes, you know, it's just be like, it'd be easier to work with because you got closer points of reference.
Right. Like, yeah. No, I was just gonna ask Jen, like with the HQQT, like, do you go far back or can you just do, you know, the life before this life? How do you know where to go?
The most appropriate time and place. So that cues, like when you start a session, you do an interview for like 3 or 4 hours and they talk about everything that comes up to them. And so as they're talking, that's cueing their subconscious for like whatever comes up is really what they need to review in that session. And so when you call in the most appropriate time and place, I don't usually do more than 3 lives in a session because people get a headache. But I have some people that want to go to like a specific lifetime, and so I will insert that. But usually it's whatever comes up. You leave it to their higher self to dictate what they want to see.
Oh, okay.
The only hard and fast rule is that you don't go to the end of this life.
You don't go to the end?
Like you wouldn't want to bring them to the end of this life.
No. Okay, I understand. Yeah. Wow,
I mean,
fascinating.
anything. My first life, I was an asteroid. So like, it can be anything.
Say this again, your first what was what?
When I had a session, my first QHHP session that I had done on me, my first life, I was an asteroid.
An asteroid,
Yeah.
And I was a tree and then a squirrel and then a woman. So
Wow.
Fantastic.
yeah.
It's fun, yeah, when people come and say, oh no, I don't believe in past life. No, that's fine. And then as soon as you get started, they go way back, right? What? Oh no, I don't believe in past lives. No, that's fine, you don't have to. Oh, were you 14th century? Cool.
I had a Seventh-day Adventist that came to me once because she couldn't get pregnant, but she didn't believe in past lives, but she felt like that was her last hope. And she had no problem accessing information.
The funny thing about acupuncture, everybody comes because it's, well, not everybody, but a lot of like Western people come because it's the last ditch. You know, everything didn't work. I might as well try this.
And it works.
It does, yeah.
Mm.
Martina, I wanted to, do you mind if I say something?
Please go. Yes.
Yeah, so a couple things something that's really come up for me today. Well, and since I've been included here in the Earth Nouveau Hub is back to the sense of community for all of us and how all of a sudden it's shifting from watching others to kind of showing up. One of the things I'm really grateful for this in particular, and what I got from Dale is the beginning to become comfortable with our individual unique gifts. And that's really been, challenging for me because I was asked to be sovereign when I started coming into my gifts in 97, which basically meant you just have to listen, Cynthia, no matter how weird it gets. And, and so feeling so odd and grateful at the same time, and now there's a group of people and it just appears that we're embracing all of these unique modalities and healing abilities to assist, our evolutionary brothers and sisters. So anyway, I just wanted to give gratitude for that. And so the work that I didn't know I was getting into, speaking of humor, is my guides would always laugh hysterically because I would be taught one thing and then I would figure out this is what I did. But anyway, they were always laughing. But I was in 2012, I was finally told by my guides what it was that I was being taught or learning about, and that was the soul blueprint. And it's just been a trip, and it's not, it's lonely at times because not even, let's say in the healing world, people would still look at me really funny. But I just have so much gratitude for being here and people sharing, and it's exciting.
Oh, thank you. Now, Cynthia, what do you play with? What is your
As it turns out, so I'm a soul blueprint reader and activator. I at the end of the day, I would say that an individual claiming their sovereignty. And so the blueprint, from as of now, so it's someone's sovereign divine design. And so evidently, this ancient wisdom's kind of come back. I'm figuring it out as I go. And but that this original design that evidently everybody has is what we're supposed to kind of plug into. And so the blueprint with its crystalline shield as the container for us to be able to kind of navigate the world. So it's makes it a little bit easier. So yeah, so it's a lot in the blueprint, so to speak.
So would you be able to define the blueprint in terms of, or would you say, okay, let me be specific, would you say the blueprint changes with the amount of reincarnations?
You know, what I've seen is the template of the divine, like our design, right? Oh, this is who you are, and this is kind of, there's a template that remains the same, right? The structure of it. But what happens, what's fun about it is that, let's say someone has a session, you know, you get centered in the blueprint. Of course, the radiant heart is the center of it, right? That's the one thing that illuminates it. You're like, oh yeah, duh, right, there it is. But what happens is at each moment or that week or wherever that person is that the blueprint, you know, is the hologram lights up and it says, oh, this is what John or someone is, what's lit up seems to be that they're working on. And so it will show up. Does that make sense? And you know, sometimes it's a past life, you know, all of a sudden the visuals of, you know, a medieval castle, etc. And so we go back to see, well, like, why is that there? So we investigate that. They're like, oh, that's great. And so they kind of maybe, you know, the shard or the trauma. So they heal that, and then it doesn't clear the blueprint, but it kind of clears that for the, you know, for it just clears it. And so, but what happens is that it appears that everything that illuminates that's kind of up for review, the purpose is, of course, their purpose, right? Their mission. So like, and then it seems like everything that's available, the data is, again, for them to have, to clear what they need to move forward on their purpose and their mission. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so would you say, Cynthia, that, you know, what you do is a form of psychic surgery?
Yes. And I don't usually use that, but what's really fun and exciting for me even to begin sharing this. An example is when I was first being taught, like I'd be working with someone on a table and, you know, all I do is get direction, you know, this, and then how do I do this? But for instance, like an Archimedes has shown up before. Some of these ancient doctors. And it's hysterical, really, because I see that. I mean, it's just, the whole thing is just so funny. And
Yeah,
so
this guy's wearing a thong, you know, it's like.
yeah, I mean, so fortunately, you know, enough, I guess I have to figure out who they are in history. So of course they always make me kind of struggle. Like, come on, Cynthia, you know what date in the history this is, you know who we are. So it takes me about a couple minutes and I sound out their name. And for instance, he will show up, and especially if they're things that are, wow, this is pretty tricky. And what'll happen is she'll like, step aside, Cynthia. Just step aside. Let me just show you how we're going to be doing this. So, and then he'd show me, and then there's some other obviously etheric doctors. So far, they've been a kind of the Greek historical time, and so I would guess that would be a psychic surgery, because they would show how to properly, let's say, extract something, heal it, often cauterization with light or a certain color of light to fuse it and contain it. So yes, I would definitely say that would be, I think, a psychic surgery, I think.
You know, there is no particular definition for psychic surgery because not many people understand it. They think, you know, I just Googled it and nothing came up. And I looked at just weird shit, you know, came up with implantation also. And even when I look at what Dale said, psychic surgery is a multidimensional healing modality, which requires the healer to look at each client to be responsible for their needs and requirements. So it's such an open book. And what I found, you know, when I first started the Bowen, which was nobody knew about the Bowen technique in when was it? 2004 or something when I started. So instead of going through the thing of explaining it to people, they didn't get it. I just called it massage. It wasn't. So I'm saying, you know, find maybe a word that you can relate to, because, you know, you could also call this archetype, that's an archetypical work that you're doing. You're working with archetypes. Now that's also a bit wacky, you know, but in terms of, you know, in order to get away from people throwing judgment at you, just call it whatever they can hear to start off with until you have much more clarity and, you know, and trust in yourself. And then you can call it something funky and fancy, you know, whatever you want. But this is the cool thing, guys, about this new stuff that we're doing. We can do whatever we want. It's new stuff.
Cynthia, your psychic healing or psychic surgery has a huge like historian comedian approach, which is really cool. It's like these comedian historian figures just stepping in, which is like awesome.
I mean, they are hysterical.
Yeah, like I really like this.
I mean, there are so many examples of just, you know, of course they think it's funny when I figure something out. I mean, the laughter that I hear is just so like, why didn't you know that before, Cynthia? You know, this is funny.
And then talking about the blueprint reader, I was just reading some things about basically like in our world today, like as people grow up, it's like 35% from the genetics and 65% from the epigenetics. So like 35% comes from the actual, like the internal, and then 65% is coming from the external world or the environment. So it's interesting to look at like, and that's not necessarily bad. It's just like, what is that external environment imprinting in? Like, is it imprinting like bad things like false light or true light?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just kind of neat just seeing how much is coming from the external world. And because yeah, you just I'm just thinking about the blueprint growing and its growth process today as it unfolds.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's fascinating stuff up there. I've had a conversation. Oh, sorry, who is it? I just throw in if I don't hear anything, but I'm too fast. Who wants to talk? Talk.
Well, I was just gonna ask, like, is our DNA is shifting and changing, so how does that affect our blueprint as well?
Just
So
to me,
for-
the DNA is the blueprint. But you go, Cynthia.
Well, you know, I'm just figuring it out as I go, as I'm instructed. Because what happens is I learn something and I filter it a little, right? So, but it appears that when somebody reactivates their blueprint with the light of their heart, and they start kind of it starts kind of rebooting, it does affect the DNA. Looks like, you know, when it through the spine, it becomes more crystalline and shifts. It's almost as though it's becoming in its original form, but also helpful for, within the evolution. So it looks like it's coming into its original form. And to be honest, I haven't figured out like to verbally say, oh, it's this strand or this strand. I haven't quite gotten that officially, I guess. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
It repairs it. It's almost like the light of our heart connecting with the soul star, light of creation, or however you want to say it, and the earth star coming together. It really, it basically heals it, restores it. That's what I do know. Anyway, hope that was helpful.
It seems like the Jingle Bells song, where it's like just the new old fashioned way. It's always like, I love that line.
I mean, yeah.
Because we're bringing back like the amazingness of the past, but we're also moving in something new and exciting and awesome. Like we're becoming something completely brand new, but we're bringing in the best of everything we've ever done before.
Well,
behind it.
That's such a good point, because so often, especially when the guys are like, oh, by the way, Cynthia, this is what you've been seeing probably since you were 5 years old. But then fast forward, I'm like, I did so much research, but I couldn't find any data on what I was seeing. And so it was so hard to say, oh, wow, Cynthia, you're bringing forth this ancient wisdom. And I still have a hard time because I don't know, but that's just what it seems to be. But you're so right, because it's the old, and not old, but something old and original. And now we're like, oh, remember this? And then we're, I guess, the reintroduction of the old. So for us to use, in our new world. So anyway, yeah, that's a great way to put it.
So, and I just want to bring in now, for like psychic healers, Zhuangzi, Huangdi, Sun Si Miao, Gao Hong, Huatou. Just bringing in, I wonder if you see any Chinese medicine physicians now, because they've been practicing for, the better of 2,000 years.
I thought you were doing light language.
Well, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
I don't know, there's some Chinese light language going on. Now, I just want to say something to this blueprint and stuff. Remember, guys, we were talking or AB talks about rule of thumb 80-20 when it comes to the DNA. Yeah, the 80-20 rule. And basically the way we elaborated on that was like what Sean was just saying, epigenetics, anything from the environment, all the conditioning, all the points of views, the conclusions, the belief system and everything, that would be part of the 80%, right? And that comes from all the past lives, all our beliefs and everything that we still, karma, it's basically the bit of the karma, the entanglements, everything that we've learned. Now and the 20% would be more of that blueprint that Cynthia is talking about, which is very much the frequency, the harmony, and the vibration, the vibratory rate of our soul, basically. And then the soul contracts, and then, all that stuff that we talked about. And then as we start clearing the 80%, that karmic entanglement bullshit, as we go through karmic resolution, the 20% gets higher because our blueprint comes through more. It's no longer overshadowed with all that karmic paradox bullshit,
Well, and it can express itself properly. Because like I think Andrew said it before, our DNA just doesn't know how to express itself in a false light environment. Because it just doesn't know what to do. It's like, well, how do I even express myself? So then at least what we have, we'll be able to express properly.
I
And
like
Thanks,
that.
that was so well put.
Yeah, that was great.
A number I want to put to you guys, because here's a number I've been just wanting to figure out for the longest time. So we have the 80, like the epigenetic factor, and I had the 65. But how much comes from the DNA or from, our lineages, and how much is the star lineages, Like, so like, because you have the two parents and the ancestral line, whatever's in that. But how much is the soul incarnation in there too? It's just trying to figure out the split between those. And I'm assuming my instinct is that it's very different for every single individual, depending on how much force comes in.
I would say if you consider the timeline paradox and the soul family theme, and that we keep on coming back as our ancestors, and all this entanglement, is actually no point to even go there, because it's a mix, of everything. I would almost say, the more we clear the karmic resolution, the karmic entanglements, the more we're going to go into our origins and star origins. So it can be, and that there's no, some people come in with 65% versus 35, and that's all, blueprint as such, and they still fuck up. Yeah, so there is no such thing, because I initially thought, oh, once I clear all the 80% and everything goes 100 and I'm blueprint and I'm here and that's it. It's not that either. So it's very complicated. And I think we could explore that at some stage a bit more. There is more data. Nothing is ever complicated. It's just more data that is required. Some people don't even know that, DNA is changeable. They think, it's in her genes to die with cancer, If 80%, and that was just the rule of thumb, for the average person, I suppose, if we can change the genes, and that's epigenetics, because we can get rid of all this environmental shit, all the crap that we entangled with and bought into, well, we can go back to our blueprint. But then, for how far do you want to go?
Oh, the star's the limit.
The monad, even if you go all the way back into the monad, there is still a differentiation in matter, right? Because, why are there soul families? Why do I come from a warrior family? Warriors and healers and teachers and philosophers, that's basically just the blueprint that has created itself throughout all those incarnations.
And eventually I want to think about all these things effortlessly. You don't want to grind away at it. I just want to let the information flow as its own little super highway.
Well, we mustn't go analysis paralysis, but it's interesting, no?
Yeah.
I mean, we are freaks, right?
Well, yeah, it's like, but building that construct again. Like, eventually we got us freaks, we got to build this construct so we can incarnate into it. So we just got to build it up, but then we got to chuck her away, but it's already built.
Yeah.
It's like,
And then we'll have our own circus.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And look, I mean, yes, but that leads us back to free will, right? We're living in a free will galaxy. Well, hello, if we're living in the free will galaxy, we need to know what we are choosing, right? What is this free will all about? And then, of course, we know that there is an element where, we don't know. That's okay too.
Wait, are we?
Because we don't have the level of awareness yet. Amy, sorry.
No, this was weird. It just came to me. If we have free will, but we have contracts that we're here to come and do, so is there really free will in that contract? Within that contract, can we update it? Can we take some things out? Okay, I didn't know. I'm like,
well, I would say, number one, the fact that we can make contracts before we come into this world is part of the free will, because we're choosing, right? That's already part of it. And then every free will choice has multiple infinite possibilities for the outcome, right? So we have even the contracts, and now, especially now, with having changed the broadband frequency of this earth, remember, we can now go back and say whatever contracts, this is the womb work, if a contract I've made I destroy and uncreate them now. I don't want them anymore. That's part of that too.
The past ones.
Hmm?
The past contracts or the future or all of it.
Well, you come in with a set of contracts for this particular lifetime. So I would say you can do that, focus on that first. And then, of course, you got to acknowledge your time traveling consciousness, time traveling capacities that you can go wherever you want to go and change.
Mm.
That's the whole idea of healing our soul shards, right? Of healing our aspects. But it comes with responsibility. We can't just be like time traveling cowboys and just fucking around everywhere, you know?
You can't just flip flop every second.
And of course, you see, the other thing is everything is overlaid in holograms anyway. So I don't have to go into the 15th century to make it, because I can create it right now, because it is stored in my 80% or whatever it is in that. It's all
don't- Contracts, these are fascinating, actually.
You know, Amy, I had something to say about that. Oops.
Oh,
No, you're doing
Sorry.
good. You had it right.
So one of the things I wanted to say that it's a running hypothesis for sure, but a pretty strong one. So with the contracts, what I see, I'll just use myself as an example. One of the adjectives I'm kind of using is lately is a mission, like the soul's mission. And to me, that it shifts everything, because whether it's an agreement or the contract or something, I mean, for myself, I think what I did is like, sure, I'll do that. But it was, you know, like I always call it Mission Impossible. People are like, what are you talking about? Well, Mission Impossible was, should you choose this mission? Right? And he gets the little tape and he hears it. And he's like, and it's either like, forget about it, or oh yeah, I'm gonna do that. But I don't know. I hope that's helpful. But
Yeah,
it seems
no.
like, yeah.
it did, because see, I think, like, I don't know, let's say my 20s to now. And it's like, I would sign up for everything. You know, and so that's not, now that I see it, it's more, now I'm more like you said, do I want to or not want to? But yes, that's why I'm thinking all these contracts that I had with people or places or things, and you know, I sign up for it, and you know, why'd I do that? Like, why'd I do that?
Mhm.
So
Okay, so-
free will, just a
Right,
way
but
I
that
really.
was unconscious. Wasn't that unconscious of me doing that?
That's not necessarily a contract as such. That's just a choice that you made in unawareness of what was really, you know, because of this is the my book. It's the from challenge to choice. Because when we are in the beginning of our journey and we have all this turmoil, this chaos, this emotional, you know, conditioning and everything, we don't really make free will choices. We don't really know what a choice is, because we're being pushed into certain things, and we are adhering to a belief system that is not even ours. You know what I mean? That could be part of your contract in the beginning, that you allow yourself to be dominated by the family, you know, that kind of thing. That's a contract. But what you're referring to making, these are little choices that you make. And once you get through your journey of resolve and everything, the contract is still the same, but now you can start making choices that actually work for you, you know, much more than that.
So those choices are not in the contract. Those choices.
No. That's the free will thing. You contracted out to be with your mom. You choose your mom, you choose your dad, you come in, you live in a particular country. The rest is up to you. Otherwise, it would be boring. No, you got.
It's like not one, like one boyfriend. You got contracts for thousands of them, but they're all in there too.
Yeah, but those are not the soul contracts that we're not defined. There's not such a big fine print. you know,
Mm.
exactly in
Yeah.
year 97, you're gonna meet this guy and you make a contract with him. No, it's not that. Yeah. I mean,
Oh.
take me for example, I mean, I had in my contract, I had a walk-in, you know, I didn't have to do it, but I chose it. But that was part of the initial contract, you know, I didn't need to do it, but I chose it, you know. And
Is it more like a milestone? It feels like a milestone, you know, like a contract is like, you know, okay, this is a big milestone.
It's part of the blueprint. What's
Okay.
in there. It's part of the blueprint. But the other thing is, you know, when these contracts that we are perceiving, they haven't worked out in this lifetime, we must not forget one thing. The soul has a long and a short-term agenda. So we can come in, remember the seed, we can come into this lifetime to have a contract to create, to become a super healer. Yeah. And nothing happens this lifetime other than one or two things, one or two contracts, different contracts you're making. But it's not gonna, maybe, you know, you start a course, let's say you start a course and then you have an accident. So you never become that healer, but you put that seed in. Because remember, from a soul perspective, this life is a snap. Soul doesn't care, you know, really. I mean, next time, it's more for us to recognize that we are soul, but also we have a body. So, you know, and as a free will here, and as an avatar, and all this kind of stuff we've been talking about forever, is now it's like, hey, I've come in here, I've gone through all this shit, so I might as well just have some fun. I'm gonna get out just now. That kind of thing. That's the choice we have.
Sure. Okay, that's fascinating. Yeah.
I'd like to just explain free will how I would as a kid. You know, it's like you're just at like a vacation Bible school at something, and you're talking to a religious figure, and you're like, if God's so omnipotent and can do everything, can he make a rock so heavy he can't even pick it up? Or can God like make a forgetting so strong that he can't even remember that he's God? So that's kind of like your free will. It's like, can he, you know, like if he can do everything, can he make himself forget that he can do everything?
Interesting.
You know, you definitely stumped the pastor and he just tells you to go away. But it's like just like that. It's like, you know, we have the free will choice to do anything we want. And it can get pretty intense when we wish it upon. But eventually we get the awareness back that, oh yeah, we made the choice to forget everything. And then once we get to that level of awareness again, we're like, I am that God. I can make any choice anytime I want. But it's like we made that choice to forget it all because we had that power too.
So what you're saying here is I liken free will to the spiritual aspect of myself, to the spirit aspect. Because when you go back to the very beginning, not that I know, obviously, but, you know, from what I've been reading and understanding and learning is, it is the spirit, the Father, that comes in with the free will with a desire to create. With the free will, and this what makes us creator beings. Free will creator beings. It's just when we come in and we have all this baggage and all this crap, you know, working in this matrix, in this false, unnatural living environment, you know, all this energy harvesting, we have no fucking clue what choice even is until we start letting go of all of that. And then we start recognizing, oh, I can change stuff, not just on this physical reality, but in all other planes of existence as well. But we are driven to free, we are driven through the spiritual aspect to create. And then you got the matter aspect, the corporeal business, that is that active intelligence, that movement. So you got movement and free will together. That's how we create. And that's why we can't stay still. We continuously have to keep going. As soon as we've learned something, it's like, okay, what's next? What's next? What's next? And for some, it takes longer. For some, it takes less long. Some want to go deeper depending on their contracts. Some of them are faster depending on their soul vibratory rate.
I want to throw that quote again
Wow.
in. Higher learning stops observing and oh shit. It stops learning and starts being. Here we are.
And we're becoming the energy that we're working towards. And then everything is just ease, everything just becomes naturally. And then it gets already boring again because spirit says, okay, what's next? You've got free will. Come on. Let's desire more here. What are your aspirations? Might change the word from desire into aspirations, but movement. This is the movement. This is the soul. The soul needs to move. And how do our body, the cell, the atom, they are just the microcosmos of the soul. And that is the microcosmos of the spirit and so on and so on. So we have no choice. We have to move. Because that's what this is all about. Because bloody spirit wants to get to know itself. Chooses us to have experiences. So what tries
Oh
to
my God. My brain was like, the bloody spirit needs a tampon.
Oh.
God's spirit's fault, really, if we have to keep on moving.
And I just had this like wave of heat. Whoosh. It's like, did you feel that too, Jen? It was like, damn,
But it's all about fire.
I am hot.
It's all about fire because that's the fire,
It's like,
intelligence within us, the mental capacities, right?
Ooh.
What about the fire? Kundalini.
It is.
Woo!
it was it just
I think
oh
we
my
just did some psychic surgery here without even knowing it.
yes. Woo, something happened. I am like burning up.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Woo.
Good. Girls and boys, that was brilliant. That's for sure.
Brilliant.
Great having Dale on.
Yeah.
And whenever you have something to say, you know where to go. This is your platform.
Yes.
Want to try something out. If you want to do a little exercise on us, do it. Use it. That's what we're here for. To assist each other in this journey to soul group consciousness. And with those last words, anyone else has last words? Good. Anyone is fried? I'm gonna let you guys go. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Love you, and I'll see you
Bye,
next
Thank
time.
everybody.
Very
you.
much.
Bye.
Later.
Bye
Bye,
bye.
everyone.
Bye.